श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, Verse 16. Saratyaparashadasaiva nasakya dhautya Virasananugamanasthavana pranaman Snigdheshu pandushu jagat pranatim cha Vishnur Bhaktim karoti nrupati charanarvinde. Synonyms and translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Saratya, acceptance of the post of a chariot driver. Parashada, acceptance of the presidency in the assembly of the Rajasuya sacrifice. Sevana, engaging the mind constantly in the service of the Lord. Sakya, to think of the Lord as a friend. Dautya, acceptance of the post of a messenger. Veer asana, acceptance of the post of a watchman with a drawn sword at night. Anugamana, following in the footsteps. Stavana, offering of prayers. Pranaman, offering obeisances. Snigdeshu, unto them who are malleable to the will of the Lord. Pandushu, unto the sons of Pandu. Jagat, the universal. Pranathim, one who is obeyed. Cha, and Vishnu, of Vishnu. Bhaktim, devotion. Karoti, does. Nrupati, the king. Charana Aravinde, unto his lotus feet. Translation, please repeat after me. Maharaja Parikshit heard that out of his causeless mercy, Lord Krishna, Vishnu, who is universally obeyed, rendered all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu, by accepting posts ranging from chariot driver to president,
ranging from chariot driver to president,
to messenger, friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant, and offering obeisances like one younger in years,
and offering obeisance like one younger in years.
When he heard this, Maharaja Parikshit became overwhelmed
Maharaja Parikshit became overwhelmed
with the devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord.
with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord.
Purport.
Lord Krishna is everything to the unallied devotees like the Pandavas. The Lord was for them the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master, the worshipable deity, the guide, the chariot driver, the friend, the servant, the messenger, and everything they could conceive of. And thus the Lord also
Reciprocated
reciprocated the feelings of the Pandavas. Maharaj Parikshit, as a pure devotee of the Lord, could appreciate the Lord's transcendental reciprocation of the feelings of his devotees, and thus he himself also was overwhelmed with the dealings of the Lord. Simply, simply by appreciating the dealings of the Lord with his pure devotees, one can attain salvation. To devotees, one can attain salvation. The Lord's dealings with these devotees appear to be ordinary human dealings, but one who knows them in truth becomes at once eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. The Pandavas were so malleable to the Pandavas were so malleable to the will of the Lord that they could sacrifice any amount of energy for the service of the Lord. And by such unalloyed determination, they could secure the Lord's mercy in any shape they desired.
Pandavas are so malleable to sacrifice any amount of energy. They could secure the Lord's mercy in any shape they desire. Next.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, verse 17. Tasyaivam vartamanasya
Tathaivam vartamanasya
purvesham vrittim anuvahan
purvekam vrittim anuvartam
nati dure kilaschharyam
natitore tilastaryam
yad asit tannibodhame.
Yad
asitan nibodhame.
Synonyms: Tasya of Maharaja Parikshit,
Tasya of Maharaja Parikshit.
Maharaja Parikshit.
Evam thus,
Evam thus.
Vartamanasya remaining absorbed in such thought,
Vardhamanasya remaining absorbed in such thought.
Purvesham of his forefathers,
Purvesham of his forefathers.
Vrittim good engagement,
Vrittim
Good engagement.
Anvaham day after day,
Anvaham day after day.
Na not,
Not.
Ati dure far off,
Ati dure fair off.
Kila verily,
Kila verily.
Ascharyam astonishing,
Acharyam astonishing.
Yat that,
Yet that.
Asit was,
Asit
was.
Tat which,
That which.
Nibodha know it,
Nibodha know it.
may from me.
from
me.
Translation, please repeat after me. Now you may hear from me
Now
you may hear from me
of what happened while Maharaja Parikshit was passing his days
of what happened while Maharaja Parikshit
was passing his days
hearing of the good occupations of his forefathers
hearing of the good occupations of his forefathers
and being absorbed in thought of them.
and
being absorbed in thought of them.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, verse 18. Dharma padaikena charam
Dharma padaikena charan
vichayam upalabhyagam
vichalayam upalabhyagam
pruchati smasru vadanam
prachati smastu vadanam
vivatsam iva mataram.
vivatsam iva mataram.
Synonyms: Dharma, the personality of religious principles.
Dharma, the personality of religious principles.
Pada, leg.
Pada, leg.
Ekena, on one only.
Ekena, on one leg.
Charan, wandering.
Charan,
wandering.
Vichayam, overtaken by the shadow of grief.
Vichayam,
Chayam, overtaken by the shadow of grief.
Upalabhya, having met.
Upalabhya,
Upalabhya, having met.
Gham, the cow.
Gam,
Gone, the cow.
Prichatisma, asked.
Prichatisma
Man
asked,
asked
Ashruvadanam, with tears on the face.
Ashurvadam.
with tears on the
Ashurvadanam.
Vivatsam, one who has lost her offspring.
Vivatsam,
Vivatsam, one who has lost
her
has offspring.
Iva, like.
Iva, like
You are like
Mataram, the mother.
Mataram,
Madaram, the mother.
Translation, please repeat after me. The personality of religious principles, dharma,
the
The
personality
personality of religious principles, Dharma,
was wandering about in the form of a bull.
was
was wandering about in the form of a bull.
bull.
And he met the personality of earth
And he
And he met the personality of earth
in the form of a cow who appeared to grieve like a mother,
in the
in the form of a cow who appeared to be like a mother
who had lost her child.
who
who
had
had
lost her
lost her
child.
child.
She had tears in her eyes,
She had
He had tears in her eyes,
and the beauty of her body was lost.
and the beauty
and
of
the body was lost.
Thus, Dharma questioned the earth as follows.
thus
Thus, Dharma questions the earth as follows.
purport.
Purport.
The bull
Dharma.
is the emblem of the moral principle, and the cow is the representative of the earth. When the bull and the cow are in a joyful mood, it is to be understood that the people of the world are also in a joyful mood. The reason is that the bull helps the production of grains in the agricultural field, and the cow delivers milk, the miracle of aggregate food values. The human society, therefore, maintains these two important animals very carefully so that they can wander everywhere. That they can wander everywhere in cheerfulness. But at the present moment, in this age of Kali, both the bull and the cow are now being slaughtered and eaten up as foodstuff by a class of men who do not know the Brahminical culture. The bull and the cow can be protected for the good of all human society simply by the spreading of Brahminical culture as the topmost perfection of all cultural affairs. By advancement of such culture, the moral of society is properly maintained. And so, peace and prosperity are also attained without extraneous effort. When Brahminical culture deteriorates, the cow and the bull are mistreated, and the resultant actions are prominent by the following symptoms.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, verse 19. Dharma uvacha
Dharma
Vacha
kachit badreya namayam atmanaste
Kachit Bardhe Namya Atmanaste
vichaya simlayate mlayate sanmukhena
Vichaya Semelayate Sanmukhena
alakshaye bhavatim antaradhim
Alaksaye Bhavatim Mandaradim
dure bandhum shochasi kanchanambha.
Dore Banganam Sochashi Kanchanamba.
Synonyms. Dharma uvacha, Dharma inquired.
Dharma Vacha, Dharma inquired.
Kachit, whether.
Kachit, whether.
Badre, madam.
Badre,
Badre, Madam.
Madam.
Anamayam, quite hale and hearty.
Anamayam, quite still and hearty.
Atmana, self.
Atmana, self.
Te, unto you.
Te
Unto you.
Vichaya, asi, appear to be covered with the shadow of grief.
Vichaya, Asi, appear to be covered with the shadow of grief.
Mlayatha, which darkens.
Mlayata, which darkens.
Ishat, slightly.
Ishat.
Ishat, slightly.
Mukhena, by the face.
Mukena.
Mukhena, by the face.
Alakshaye, you look.
Alakshaye. Look.
Bhavatim, unto yourself.
Bhavati.
Bhavatim, unto yourself.
Antaradhim, some disease within.
Antaradim, some disease within.
Dure, long distant.
Dure, long distance.
Bandhum, friend.
Bandhum.
Bandhum, friend.
Shochasi, thinking of.
Sochasi.
Sochasi, thinking of.
Kanchana, someone.
Kanchana.
Kanchana, someone.
Amba, O mother.
Amba.
Amba, O mother.
Translation, please repeat after me. Dharma in the form of a bull asked.
Dharma in the form of the bull asked.
Madam,
Madam,
are you not hale and hearty?
are you not hale and hearty?
Why are you covered with the shadow of grief?
Why are you covered with the shadow of grief?
It appears by your face that
It appears by your face that
you have become black.
You have become black.
Are you suffering from some internal disease?
Are you suffering from some internal disease?
Or are you thinking of some relative who is away in a distant place?
Or are you thinking of some relative who's away in a distant place?
Purport. The people of the world in this age of Kali are always full of anxieties. Everyone is diseased with some kind of ailment. From the very faces of the people of this age, one can find out the index of the mind. Everyone feels the absence of his relative who is away from home. The particular symptom of the age of Kali is that no family is now blessed to live together. To earn a livelihood, the father lives at a place far away from the son, or the wife lives far away from the husband, and so on. There are sufferings from internal diseases, separation from those near and dear, and anxieties for maintaining the status quo. These are but some important factors which make the people of this age always unhappy. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, verse 20. Padirnyunam sochasi maikapadam.
Padirnyonam sotasi maikapadam.
Atmanam vavrishalair voksyamanam.
Atmanam va vrasaler bokshayanamam.
Aho suradhin hritayajnabhagan.
Adosrudin hridayakyabagan.
Prajautasvin magavati avarshati.
Prajautasvin makavati avashyati.
Synonyms. Padai, by three legs.
Padai, by three legs.
Nyunam, diminished.
Nyonam, dim.
Adam, only one leg.
Only one leg.
Only one leg.
Atmanam, own body.
Atmanam, own body.
Va, or.
Va, or.
Vrishalai, by the unlawful meat eaters.
Vrishalai, by the unlawful meat eaters.
Bokshamanam, to be exploited.
Bokshamanam, to be exploited.
Aho, in sacrifice.
Aho, in sacrifice.
Suradhin, the authorized demigods.
Suradhin, the authorized demigods.
Kritayajna, devoid of sacrificial.
Kritayajna, devoid of sacrificial.
Bhaghan, share.
Bhagwan, share.
Raja, the living beings.
Raja, the living beings.
Uta, increasing.
Uta, increasing.
Swith, weather.
Swith,
weather.
Magavati, in famine and scarcity.
Magavati,
in famine and scarcity.
Avarshati, because of rainlessness.
Avastati, because of rainlessness.
Translation, please repeat after me. I have lost my 3 legs and am now standing on one only.
I have lost
I
my
have
three
lost
legs
my
and
three
now
legs
now
and
standing
am
on
now
one
standing
only.
on one only.
Are you lamenting for my state of existence?
Are you
Are you
lamenting for
lamenting
my
for
state
my
of
state of
existence?
existence?
Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you?
Or
Or are
are
you
you
in
in
great
great
anxiety
anxiety
because
because
henceforward the
henceforward
unlawful
the
visitors
unlawful
will
meat
exploit
eaters
you?
will exploit you?
Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings?
Or are
Or
you sorry, like because demigods are now
their
of
share of
their share
sacrificial
of
offerings
offering
Because
be-
no sacrifices are being performed at present?
because
because
no
no sacrifices
sacrifices
are
are
being
being
performed
offered
at present?
at present.
Or are you grieving for living beings
Or are you
Are you
grieving for
grieving
living
for
beings
living beings
because of their sufferings due to famine and drought?
because of the
because
sufferings due to
sufferings due
famine
to
and
famine
drought?
and drought?
With the progress of the age of Kali, four things particularly: name of the duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, and moral of religious principles will gradually diminish. Since dharma or the principles of religion would be lost in the proportion of 3 out of 4, the symbolic bull was standing on one leg only. When three-fourths
Population.
when three-fourths of the population of the whole world become irreligious, the situation is converted into hell for the animals. In the age of Kali, godless civilizations will create so many so-called religious societies in which the personality of Godhead will be directly or indirectly defied, and thus faithless societies of men will make the world uninhabitable for the saner section of people. Saner section of people. There are gradations of human being in terms of proportionate with faith in the supreme personality of Godhead. The first class faithful men are the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, then the Kshatriyas, then the Vaishyas, then the Sutras, then the Milechas, the Yavanas, and at last the Chandalas. The degradation of the human instinct begins from the Milecha, and the Chandala state of life is the last word is human degradation. All the above terms mentioned in the Vedic literatures are never meant for any particular community or birth. They are different human instinct, they are different particular community or birth. They are different qualifications of human beings in general. There is no questions of birthright or community. One can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts, and thus the son of a Vaishnavas can become a Milecha, or the son of a Chandala can become more than a Brahmanas, all in the terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. The meat eaters are generally called Milechas, but all meat eaters are not Milechas. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions are not Milechas, but those who accept meat without restrictions are called Milechas. Beef is forbidden in the scriptures, and the bulls and cows are offered special protections by followers of the Vedas. But in the age of Kali, people will exploit the body of the bull and the cow as they like, and thus they will invade sufferings of various types. The people of this age will not perform any sacrifice. The military populations will care very little for performance performances of sacrifices, although performance of sacrifice is essential for persons who are materially engaged in sense enjoyment. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.14.16, performance of sacrifices is strongly recommended. The living beings are created by the creator Brahma, and just to maintain the created living being progressively towards the path back to Godhead. The system of performance sacrifice is also created by him. The system is that living beings live on the produce of grains and vegetables, and by eating such a foodstuff, they get vital power of the body in the shape of blood and semen. And from the blood and semen of one living being is able to create other living beings. But the production of grains, grass, etc., becomes possible by rain. And this rain is made to shower properly by performance of recommended sacrifices. Such sacrifices are directed by the rites of the Vedas, namely Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva. In the Smriti, it's recommended that by offering of sacrifice on the altar of the fire, the sun god is pleased. When the sun god is pleased, he properly collects water from the sea, and the sufficient clouds collect on the horizon and rainfall. After sufficient rainfall, there is sufficient production of grains for men and all animals, and thus there is energy in the living being for progressive activity. The militias, however, make plans to install slaughterhouses for killing bulls and cows along with the other animals, thinking that they will propose by increasing the number of factories and live on animals' food without carrying the performance of sacrifices and production of grains. But they must know that even for the animals, they must produce grass and vegetables. Otherwise, the animals cannot live. And to produce grass for the animals, they require sufficient rains. Therefore, they have to depend ultimately on the mercy of the demigods, like the sun god, Indra and Chandra. And such demigods must be satisfied by the performance of sacrifice. This material world is a sort of prison houses. As we have several times mentioned, that demigods are the servants of the Lord who see to the proper upkeep the presence house. These demigods wants to see that the rebel living beings who wants to survive faithlessly are gradually turned towards the supreme power of the Lord. Therefore, the system of offering sacrifice is recommended in the scriptures. The, the materialistic men wants to work hard and enjoy fruitive results for sense enjoyment. Thus, they are committing many types of sins at every steps of life. Those, however, who are consciously engaged in the devotional service of the Lord are transcendental to all varieties of sin and virtue. Their activities are free from the contamination of the three modes of the material nature. For the devotees, there is no need to performance of the prescribed sacrifice because the very life of the devotee is a symbol of sacrifice. But persons who are engaged in fruitive activities for sense enjoyment must perform the prescribed sacrifices because that is the only means to get free from the reaction of all sins committed by fruitive workers. Sacrifice is the means for counteracting such accumulated sins. The demigods are pleased when such sacrifices are performed, just as a prison officers are satisfied when the prisoners are turned into obedient subjects. Lord Chaitanya, however, has recommended only one yajna or sacrifice called Sankirtana Yagna, the chanting of Hare Krishna, in which everyone can take part. Thus, both devotees and fruitive workers can derive equal benefits from the performance of Sankirtana Yagna.
Hari Om Tat Sat. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, पंडित पावन श्रील गुरु महाराज की जय, वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च Patithanam
Patithanam
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much. So
Haribol.
we'll resume our Srimad Bhagavatam tomorrow sharp at 7 o'clock morning. Till then, bye-bye. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.